Hey there. We just finished up our second training session in the Whatever You Do, Do This training series. And today we focused on the Holy Grail of learning. The Holy Grail of learning is meaning. Now, you and I both know what meaning is all about and its importance to learning. And in today's session, we highlighted 4 functions of the brain in order to create meaning. In addition to that, we shared a few strategies as well. So in this recap video, that's what we're going to do. Recap. I love the quote by Maya Angelou that says, "I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better." And that's the purpose of these training sessions, is to give us more knowledge so we can build our competence, which will build our confidence so that we can do better. So what is a holy grail? A holy grail is something that is sought after. It is highly precious. And although it will take some effort to find it, when you find it, it is worth holding on to. Meaning is defined as relevance, significance, and value. So think for a moment about an event, a recent one or not so recent event, one that has significance, relevance, and value to you. And as you capture that event, notice how you feel. Notice the sights, the sounds. What in particular was so meaningful to you about that particular event? Four functions that the brain engages in order to create meaning. There are lots of functions. We're just going to name 4 out of the neuroscience of learning. The first one is patterns. Patterns are the way in which we navigate our world. What is a pattern? A pattern is a discernible, coherent system based on the intended interrelationship of component parts. But you just got to love definitions, right? So let's unpack that for a moment. Coherent, what does that mean? Well, everything fits together. And it's a system, meaning that all the parts work together to get a particular result. So that's what a pattern is. It produces a visual result, a emotional result, for example, and it's discernible. It might take some effort in order to discover what it is, but a pattern is discernible, and it has these interrelated parts. As I said, patterns are the way in which we navigate our world. We see patterns in behavior, in our social interactions. We see patterns when we're in the grocery store and we're looking for items in the aisle. We see patterns in weather and even in our own waking and sleeping cycles. So patterns are all around us. So the question is, what patterns are inherent, discernible within your content? What are the parts and pieces that all come together? Now, you could probably imagine if you know the pattern, then most likely you can help your participants discover the pattern. All right, let's move on to a second function of the brain in creating meaning. It's called connections. Now, connections have everything to do with what we have previously done, previously said, or some meaningful experience that we've had. When the brain encounters new information, it immediately searches through the reservoir of neural connections, of past memories and associations, and finds anything it possibly can to connect the new with the old. This is essential to meaning. It's what gives things relevance. Saint Spray, I believe is how you say his name. He was a journalist and a writer and a poet, and he was also a pioneer in aviation. Well, here's what he has to say about connections. He uses the word relations. For it's not the things that feed the spirit, it's not the thing that feeds the spirit, but rather the links between the things. Not the diamond, but some relations between people and the diamond. Not the sand, but some relations established between the sand and the tribes. Not the words in the book, but some relations existing in the book between and beyond the words. I carry this feather in the visor of my truck. And this feather came from the forest floor around our family cabin up in the northern Sierras. Now, the feather itself doesn't have any particular meaning, but my relationship that I've created to this and all the associations is where I find my meaning. This feather alone reminds me of 12 of my relatives all snuggled together around a dining table. It reminds me of the sounds of the thunder that would happen during the rain and the thunderstorm and the hail that would happen in most afternoons. It also reminds me of the ice cold water that cascaded off the waterfall onto our heads as we were doing a caveman shower. The feather, just a feather. My associations with the feather is what creates meaning. This quote reminds us of a cognitive behavioral tenet, and that cognitive behavioral tenet is that it's our interpretation of the events and the things that give meaning. Here's what it looks like visually. We have an event or a thing. And it is our interaction with that event or a thing that then we interpret and then we find meaning in it. So what is it that drives our interpretations? Well, in learning theory, there's a concept known as state. You can think of state as a mood. And in this particular instance, our state is comprised of our internal dialogue. What do we say to ourselves about that thing, about that event that we were just part of? Our emotions. What feelings have I attached? Were they feelings that moved me forward to have more of it? Or were there feelings that caused me to detach from that event or that thing? And then the images we create. So again, it's not the event or the thing. It's not the procedure or the policy. It's not the new CRM system. It's not the mathematical equation. It is not the thing or even the event itself, but it's the interpretation and meaning. Most often that is driven by what has happened in our past. Patterns, connections, and emotions. All content is emotional. All thinking, says neuroscientist Ledoux, all thinking that we have is wrapped in emotion. Wow. I don't know if I've really thought about that before, other than the content that I might be so passionate about may not be as passionate to other people. I might absolutely love equations, love spreadsheets, love projects, love working on a team. And all of those things or experiences, I have meaning wrapped around it. I have emotion wrapped around it. And there are other people who just don't have that same emotional connection. Now, why are emotions so important? Because they really are the substance of our memories. If you've been with me before, you know how much I geek out about the brain and neuroscience. So welcome to your hippocampus. That's that right there, the red part, the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the center of new memory formation. Now, we could say that nearly every emotion will help with meaning and therefore memory. But here are 5 absolutely will create a deeper sense of meaning. Here they are: joy, excitement, anticipation, pleasure, and novelty. Emotions, connections, patterns, and actions. Now you can think of an action as the artifact. It's the evidence. It's the proof that meaning is occurring. Now, we really got to get into the neuroscience here just a little bit farther. When electrical impulses fire down through the neural pathways, scientists call that activity an action potential. Action potential. So all of the firing that happens creates this potentiality for some action to happen. Now, when we have action potential, it literally, physically, biologically changes the neural structures in the brain. The neurochemicals that create a culture within which learning or change happens. Here are some strategies. What's in it for me? WIIFM. This is like the magnet for the brain and for our mind. It attracts that data and stimulation from all the millions of bits of information that our brain is bombarded with at any given second or any given moment. It selects what's in it for me. Now, because you and I are so passionate about our content, then we already know what's in it for us. We've found the patterns, we've found the connections, we've made a positive emotional connection to it, and we've taken action on it. And that action has built up our dopamine, and therefore we keep doing it over and over and over again until it's habituated. Yeah, here's the truth. Not everybody finds our content, your content, to be meaningful. So what do we do about that? One strategy, or what we call actions. One action you can take is simply ask participants. So what's in this for you? You being here in this training today, what's in it for you? This project that we're starting, what's in it for you? This new protocol or procedure, what's in it for you to accomplish this? Here's a second strategy. Why are we learning and doing this? Again, this is a strategy or an action that you can take and ask your participants. So why do you think we're learning this? Why do you think we're doing this new procedure? Why do you think we're doing this new math problem? Why are we doing this chemical experiment? Why are we doing this new marketing plan? Now here's what's up. You can either beat people to the punch, or people are going to ask that question. And as soon as your participants ask, so why are we learning this? Why are we doing this? As soon as they ask that, they find an answer. And most often, it's not a positive one. So we can beat them to the chase, right? We can head them off and say, hey, let's just start with, Why are we learning this? Why are we doing this? And let them talk it out. If they need some hints and suggestions, you can do that. But there's, we oftentimes we've made this mistake in telling people why something is important, why it's meaningful to them, why they ought to find relevance or significance or value in it. Well, I don't know about you, but in all the hundreds or thousands of people that I have trained or taught, I'm telling you, there's a big percentage of those people who are just simply saying, yeah, it's meaningful for you. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm not convinced. And that's why it's so important that we invite people to the connections. We invite people to find the patterns. We invite people to ask, what's in it for me? Because in doing the invitation, they create the meaning. And for learning to occur, for neurological change in the brain to occur, we must find our own meaning. All right, one more strategy, the 5 whys. All right, it's a simple little activity. Let's say you're unpacking a challenge. Let's say it's a project and we're, I don't know, 25% into the project. And it's not going well. And so we gather for a debrief and you ask your team, so what's going on? What's going on with the project? Why isn't it working? Now, usually what happens is it's like kind of a surface level response, which is, well, if we only had more time, if we only had more resources, some people just aren't finishing what they're supposed to do in time. Okay, all of that might be true. So if we're going to use the 5 whys, we ask the team, well, why is it that there's not enough resources? Or why is it that people aren't accomplishing what they're supposed to in the time frame that they're given? And we keep asking why. And what that does is it uncovers so we can discover what the root cause is of the situation or the challenge that we're looking at. All right, those are 3 strategies. What's in it for me? Why are we learning or doing this? And 5 whys. With the biggest takeaway from our entire time together today was no meaning, there's no learning. And when we know the meaning, then we know that we're learning. Our next session together is on Wednesday, October 14th. Hey, please make sure that you subscribe to our email and our email list so you can stay informed and up to date about what's happening and what that topic will be. All right, wow, this is really exciting news, seriously. I just completed this mini course called Intentional Communication, 3 actions to ensure that your content sticks. I'm so excited because these 3 actions are actions that I have taken, strategies that I have used over and over and over again. And I have seen across the board increased focus and attention and comprehension. I've seen people put into action what it is, the content was that they were learning. And they work so well for me. I really want you to get introduced to them and you to apply them so you can see how well they can work for you. All right, until the next time, keep being intentional.